Are you investing in property for the wrong reasons? Hi, I'm Sam Powell.
And I'm Jared Krause, and we're the hosts of the Property Pals Australia podcast. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about how to discover what your actual real property goals are for you, the right ones for you, that are not actually influenced by external sources. We go pretty deep in this, which is great.
Yeah, and we also discuss how to prevent yourself from choosing the wrong goal for you and what is actually important to you based on your own personal trusted values.
Yeah, we dive into a lot of things like materialism, social status games in property, why people are bogged down in debt, objects, and also not having time.
Yeah, it's an interesting little conversation. So hope you enjoy it. We also discussed like the different property journeys that you actually could take that could actually be damaging to your wealth, but amazing for your ego. So listen on in. There's so much more into this pod. But before we obviously get stuck in, it's not the only place that we can help you for free through this podcast. Head on over to our website, propertypals.au/resources. We've developed this really cool mini course on how to maximize your borrowing capacity. It really does help. We're getting some really great reviews from it, and it's a nice, easy read, and you can lead you to obviously purchasing a better quality asset at a better price and amplify your return on investment. So jump on over and enjoy the pod.
Welcome to Property Pals, the podcast where we share everything around how to build a property portfolio, from researching areas, financing, structuring, buying, selling, and reinvesting to live a life of financial independence. As a disclaimer, any information shared by myself, Jared, Sam, and the Property Pals team is strictly general and should not be taken as constituting professional advice. You should consider seeking independent legal, financial, and taxation advice from a qualified professional.
Anyway, all right, 3, 2, 1.
That was on point. Hey, everyone.
Oh, it's almost so awkward starting a podcast episode. You're like, all right.
Well, we're gonna.
No one's in the room.
This is live now.
Yeah.
So hopefully people get a bit of understanding that this is what goes into recording a pod.
Yeah, you're in a room with just the two of us and just talking about property, and then you get on the back end, everyone writes your messages and asks questions.
Yeah.
So it's a cool way.
It's cool though, because when you rock up in the morning, it's like we end up chatting about life. That's what we do. Is we chat about life, right? We go out, have a surf, chat about life. We come in, have a big long 2-hour brekkie with our mates. We chat about life and investing and property and all these things. And this morning, I was like, let's not have a polished version of a podcast episode where we've got like a lot of talking points that we want to get through. What's relevant is what we first started talking about, which is like,
why do we invest?
Yeah,
great topic. Once again, fully riffing this, but like it's a classic question that I ask people, especially doing strategy sessions, is what's your why? And I just want we want to break this down just so you get your mind thinking that everyone is running around trying to achieve certain goals, but you got to ask yourself why. Why are you trying to achieve that goal, and what will that get you once you've achieved it?
Yeah, it's probably the most important thing to think about, and something that I've probably spent the better part of a decade, longer than a decade, and continue to do so, is like why, like how do I want to live my life intentionally, and how do I set my life up so it is that way? And I think this interesting part is most of our whys, our reasons and our goals are based on other people's goals as well. Of like, I want my lifestyle to look like this. And I was talking about, a couple of years ago when I was with I had already achieved that. My initial goal was like, and your environment shapes what your goal is so much. Like, I think environment one thing I learned from one of my mentors: environment is stronger than willpower. That was my mentor that I first started learning from in property in 2018, and I had already achieved, like years and years ago, I got to that point where I was like, I want to like do the travel. I want to do the travel life and surf and just work online and have that independence, which was my first one. And then I came back to Australia after one of my trips. I got a partner and went into a relationship, and then my goals changed, which is cool because you should form goals together. But I was in this bubble of like what I thought was like what I needed to have to be successful or to have like a good life, or even though I had that time independence and that location independence, I thought, no, I'm gonna get this big old house, I'm gonna get this fancy car, and like
Tesla,
yeah. Like when it was like Tesla was like, everyone's got a Tesla now, but
the big SUV ones, what are they worth these days?
I don't know. The Cybertruck.
Oh, mate,
I was almost bought a Cybertruck.
Oh wow! Okay, I didn't go sleeping.
I was just like, I'm just gonna buy all this stuff. Like, why not? Like, everybody else is, kids and spending money on all these other things. I'm like, I'll just buy these things. And
yeah, well, that's a really good quote actually. Was it your environment
is stronger than willpower?
Yeah, and that's what you see. Like, we're obviously big proponents of traveling the world, and the reason why I love that is because to see how other people live, and at the end of the day, you look at yourself from a level of contentment. So you have a contentment cup, whether you want to call that or not, but we all end up in the same place, in the ground, or before we hit the ground, hopefully we're old and we're in our rocking chair on our front. This is how I picture my life anyway. On my front deck, just rocking back and forth with my cup of coffee because I'm still addicted to coffee, and just pondering the world and how it all formed out over my past 80 years. And my father's, he's in that, he's 74, 75.
Has he got a rocking chair?
Yeah, he does. Actually.
Kerry on the rocking chair.
It's actually a family heirloom. Like my grandma has hers, and then they have it, and then we brought it back to our place to breastfeed back in the day.
Cool. Oh, I think I have seen this. Yeah, it's like a dark brown rocking chair, right?
Yeah, I got my eyes on it for the day.
I got to get myself one of those so we can both hang out. I'll just be drinking my waters though.
Yeah, but I guess the whole point is, what is your contentment level? Where do you actually want to be? And like, you might find that you don't need as much as you really think you do at the end of the day.
Yeah, that's that. Coming back to your environment, it's so easy to have our environment shape our conditioning and shape our beliefs and shape our wants and needs and fears and frustrations and desires, and I don't know.
Well, here's an example, right?
I don't know how much I should share and what I should or should not say.
Well, let's share everything, mate. We want to hear all your deepest, darkest.
There's a lot that I ponder.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's a philosophical mind, and we've obviously grown up and very interested in those kinds of things, and I feel like that comes into my selection of career as well, and same with you as a coach and an online business mentor. Is that you get more philosophical because they're those big questions that people are all running around, trying to work a job that they probably don't like or don't want to, just don't see themselves in long term, to earn a thing called money. What is money? And to buy things that they don't need. Like, as an example, like, look around you. You turn the TV on. Ads are being pumped at you. There's billboards everywhere. There's signs everywhere. They're all selling you things that you don't really fit into that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Like, you've got, the biggest thing for us to obviously all live is we need food, water, shelter. It's pretty simple. You go to some of these remote locations like in Sumbawa, or you just got back from
Sumatra.
Sumatra. Yeah. You just got back from a nice surf trip and snowboarding trip, and it's like these people are actually really happy. And I mean, tell us some stories. What did you see?
In Indonesia?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, it's pretty poor, but the kids live in absolute paradise. Like, we live in paradise as well here on the Gold Coast. But the kids will finish school and they'll just go surfing, and that's all they need. Like, they don't need, like, they got push bikes. They've got the cheapest the motorbikes are so rough over there. Like, even just going from like a couple of months in Bali, having like decent motorbike there, like semi-decent, like it's not amazing, and then going to like South Sumatra and you get on their motorbikes there and you're like, this thing is like put together by like duct tape and glue. It's like it's very scary to ride, and that's all they need. Is they just need like transport, they need food and shelter and something to do. I think I heard it or read it in a book. I think what we really need in our life is we need something to do, i.e. work. Purpose. Someone to love, family, partner, friends, all that sort of stuff, and then something to look forward to. And I think a lot of people have something to do, but it's typically not what they would consciously choose to continue to do. They have someone to love. That piece is, most people have that, whether it's a partner, or if you don't have a partner, it's friends and family and children, and then something to look forward to. These two big ones on either side of like something to do and something to look forward to, I think they're hugely manufactured by our environment, and we don't know what it's like outside of our environment. That's why I'm a big advocate for traveling, because that can help you shape your view of like, hang on, what's actually important here.
Yeah, we got our light's been a bit of a disco.
Our light show going on. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's just like changing so much.
Maybe the spirits are in here, man.
Yeah.
Should have saged it or something.
I've got some back there.
I bet you do. Oh, bloody hell. Yeah, well, getting like that's kind of the whole point that I'm trying to get people to start thinking. So why are you investing? Because a big part of my job is talking to people about what their goals are, and as a strategist, it's like, well, your goal is $100,000 passive income, $100,000. It's pretty typical. Mm-hmm. Or to replace their income might be 150, and they've got these savings. They don't know how to achieve it, and then I obviously lay out a bit of a plan and show them, well, this is all you really need to do in order to generate that. But why do you want that? And more often than not, it's I want to get out of my job, or I just want more time, more freedom to do what makes me happy. And that's the biggest theme is people are investing for time. Time is the most valuable resource because it's finite. Money is just it's a construct of time for me, where you trade your time for this thing called currency, which is a made-up thing anyway, which is getting deflated. It's actually the world's, the way that they've set it up is in order to control populations. Is they keep us busy. As an employee, as a business owner as well, you want to keep your employees so busy that they go in, they're just drained by the time they leave, so they don't go and start a business on the side, and then you have wasted your time and effort training these people up for them to leave. For me, I'd rather train those people up because it enlightens them, and then obviously with the systems and processes that you put in place for these people initially, it helps you then train and grow other people. Like, it's a constant wheel, but
it's a huge wheel, man. It's a crazy wheel. Like, when you start to really think about it, there's way more to it than just like the salary. I think I was listening to somebody the other day, some spiritual teacher, talking about like the two biggest addictions are heroin and the monthly wage. Or the because
which one are you, heroin or
I've rid myself from both, which is good.
Never will I. Never say never, but heroin just sounds hectic.
Yeah, no, like I haven't dabbled in that much compared to some people, but yeah. So right, moving on. Side subject, drugs. So yeah, I was just saying that like the wage thing is one, and you'll get paid enough to just be able to get by and afford the lifestyle that you want. But that's that conditioning in work, but you've also got conditioning outside of that, where we are led to believe, because we're in this environment, that people that have all these other things in their life, they're happy, or they at least look successful, but we believe that success because of the media that we consume. Like, even just movies, like this is, you know, movies, Facebook, Instagram, whatever it is, these things, like, you are what you eat. I'm a big believer of that. And people think like, oh, you are what you eat, it's just in the form of like food. No, everything is food for you. Everything is nourishing. Even, you know, the things that you watch, that can be fulfilling, that can be nourishing. You eat that, right? You consume that. What you consume through not just your mouth, but through your eyes, through your ears, and also your belief of the world as well, and your thoughts. So that's another big one of like, and why I say this is because, coming back to why to invest, is what you hit the nail on the head, is our conditioning and our bubble and our environment can typically have us wanting to invest or shape our goals based on what we believe success is, based on the small bubble in the environment that we're in or what we consume, versus what's real success is like, and what should be a real goal. And we're not putting this on you, it's up to you guys to think about what's right for you. But you said time. That's the most valuable thing. And then once you've got that, I think that should be the foundation. And once you've got that, what do you want to do with that time? Rather than like, oh, I want this money to spend it on these things so I can have these things. Because the money on those things is not going to be, typically the ROI that you get from purchasing things is far less valuable than like experiences and time doing things with people that you love. So that's why I think that foundation of time and experience is probably the best foundation to use your money for, versus like our bubble of, I just want this car and I want this house and I want a PPORR because that helps me feel safe, when reality is that, you know, anything can happen. Like, that's a false sense of security.
Yeah, I mean,
in my opinion.
And that's why we're big proponents of that passive income, and investing obviously is, it does give you time back. You know, I say to people, you've got to make your money work for you so you don't have to work for your money. And, you know, helping people get out of that hamster wheel, you know, it does bring a lot of satisfaction. So, you know, by investing in property, is like, the get rich quick stuff is just fraught with danger. Don't get me wrong.
There's no such thing as a get rich quick, right?
Well, I don't know. Instagram tells me otherwise, doesn't it? You see that. I mean, I dabbled in the currency trading, and then, you know, then we're doing the share portfolio. Like, all I have to do is my share portfolio to grow $1,000 a year. It compounds, and the rule of like the compounding effects, just, it's phenomenal. But once you get down the path, you realise, oh wow, this is not as easy as I thought it was going to be. But that's why I like to try and always bring people back to your big why, because you never know what the future holds. Like, God, if you would have asked, like, ask yourself where you are today listening to this. You know, what were you thinking 5 years ago? And are you there? If you are, fantastic. If you're in a different place, but, you know, still as happy and content, then that's just a joyous time. If you're not at that level of contentment, then what are you doing about it? Because, yeah, the world, the way that it's all structured, right, is... you know, to do things, we have to earn money. Don't get me wrong. We have to find a way to provide.
We should earn money. It's our right to earn money.
Yeah, hell yeah, it's your right to earn money. And it's just like, we'll do it in the most efficient manner, but also start to think. You know, like, if you're working in a position that you don't want to be in, you want to be in something else, then what are you doing to get there? Because if you do nothing, nothing will happen. That's why I always say to people, oh, let's put these plans in place, let's invest, we can get to that $100,000, $150,000 passive income. There's no dramas with that. It's not the most complex thing in the world, it's just actually doing it. And it starts with, you know, step one, which is figuring out your why, and then starting saving towards that. Once you've got that savings, it's like, well, what are you doing with that? And then taking those risks, because they're risks in a way. Anything to do with investing is a risk, but you can reduce the risk dramatically with the right, obviously, advice, but not pushing the limits too much. You know, those that accumulate a lot of property during, you know, the lower interest rate environments, they pushed it too hard, and sometimes it's like it's the greed and the ego that wrecks people, and they're like, it's like, oh, I've got X many properties. That doesn't define who you are. I mean, you can have one property, but it could be,
That's a really good point.
It could be a really good property too. You sit there and go, I don't need any more. Like in order for me to hit my life goals, going back to what we were saying at the start, is you might just need $60,000, and then you're happy to go and be a surf instructor in different parts of the world and just keep traveling. Like Jared was a scuba diving instructor. He didn't get paid a lot of money.
Get $10 US a dive per person.
Yeah.
So. Actually, I think I did surf instructing as well, ran a surf school in Panama, and similar amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you had a fantastic time, so it didn't feel like work, right?
No, it was so good.
Everyone's running around trying to retire really early, but we actually are going to, like, I'm just throwing it out there, but they're saying that the first person to live to 150 is alive today. Like, we as a species are extending our time frame.
Oh, this is so good as well. This is like really comes back to having time. What I'm thinking about now is I think if you build wealth, it's a really good vehicle for anti-aging. Or not anti-aging, but slowing down your age. Because I think what kills most people, my belief is why we die, is stress, right? Our organs get outworked, broken down, too much stress over the years of digesting food, pumping blood, all these sorts of things. So our body just decays because of stress, right? Over time, breathing and all these things. And I think what helps our physiology be less stressed is like having time, having space, and having fun and having a laugh. And how often does that happen when you're working a 9 to 5? When you are worried about, I need to pay a mortgage payment, I need to pay for these kids' things, I need to pay for all these different things, and you probably get more value out of paying for some of the things than some of the, some are more valuable and worth having than not, but
paying for your kids' education.
Exactly, and seeing your kids develop and stuff is like a great ROI. The fulfillment you get from that is really good, but is the house that is a bit too big that you don't necessarily need worth it? Is the car that you're driving that you bought on finance worth it? And all these little things that stack up, then you've got this pressure and this weight on yourself. I actually said this last week. I think it was a good quote. We were at a mate's house, and the quote is, people will buy things they don't want. No, people will buy things with the money they don't have. Or people will buy things they don't need, with the money they don't have to impress the people that they don't like.
Or no.
Right?
Yeah.
So
let that sink in for a bit too.
Yeah, and I'll put it in a different light. People will buy things they don't need, i.e. big fancy car, house, clothes, heaps of things, right?
Yeah,
materialism. People will buy materialism with the money they don't have, so they don't need that stuff. And what they don't have is the money to purchase it, so they buy it on credit, cars, all this sort of stuff.
Or they sacrifice
credit
it for
card,
like
to impress the. Sorry, go on.
Oh, well, some people you get the, I've got these brand new shoes and they're $200 shoes, and it's like, well, why can't you buy your lunch today? Or why can't we're out here catching up for a feed? Why am I buying it for you? Like, I get paid next week. Can you just shout us? And you're like, oh, bro, like, darling, whichever one you want to be called. You're not doing the right order. So anyway, get back to you.
And so you've got buying those things you don't need with the money you don't have to impress the people that you don't like. Now, these can be people that can be friends, or what you may think of as friends, and they might be judgmental of like what you wear and who you hang out with and all these sorts of things. So are you doing it for them? And typically you're doing it for yourself because you don't want to be judged. That's one thing. That's another can of worms that we could talk about. But coming back to your point on the shoes thing, is like, I can afford a lot of pairs of shoes, and I've got a pair of shoes now that are old and I need a new pair of shoes. I just don't care. Like, I don't care for like, I need a fancy new pair of shoes.
It's more so the effort to go to the shops to try about 40 different pairs of shoes on.
Yeah.
It's a pain in the ass for me.
Or having to find ones online and I'll just wear these until I'm like, yeah, okay, I literally can't wear them anymore. There's no more soles left. But it's just coming back to what are your values, and that's a really big thing to think about. Is see if you can build a set of values outside of your current environment, or that are different than what your current environment is, that are right for you on a core level, that actually light you up. These values light me up, that's worth chasing for. And that's what I think is worth investing for is, if your goal is to go to Florida for a month to work online a little bit, but also spend time with your kids in Disneyland and all that sort of stuff, that is worth investing for. Because you're going to take those experience, depending on what you believe spiritually, but you're going to take those experiences with you. You can't take these things and these materialist things with you. Yeah,
well, you have a bit of think about it. So marketing companies spend billions of dollars every single year convincing you to buy their products that you don't need. That's kind of what you're up against, and just wanted to sort of lay that out for people to understand that beat the system and focus on those things that are really important. It's going to help you understand your why for investing and get you there faster. Hence the reason why we're doing this is that you'll start to go in and instead of you're at the shops and you feel like a new shirt, new shoes, you've got already 10 brand new shirts in your cupboard, and then you're like, oh, I actually like that shirt. You don't need it. So and $20 a week is $1,000 a year. $200 a week is $10,000 a year. It all compounds. But at the end of the day, it's your health is really important, and good relationships. And this is sort of where it's all centering around, is that ask yourself, the people that you call your friends and those that you hang out with, will they not want to hang out with you because you don't have that X product? If that's a yes, maybe you're not hanging out with the right people. Because when push comes to shove and if everything goes to shit, you want your friends and your community, your support network. We're all here to push each other up and grow. And if someone takes that step backwards, then to walk away from that person at the ultimate time of need, I just feel like is just not a personality trait that you want to be drawn towards. And the world is full of people that it's just like a social hierarchy and status, and it's intoxicating. Trust me, I've been there. I've been in these high corporate environments, going out for drinks and networking every night, and you just don't talk to them anymore. It might be a year relationship, and then if you're not giving them what they think they're getting out of you, then they move on to something else or somebody else, and it's just your long life friendships, like Jared over here, and my other community, and my family and my friends, they're with me through thick and thin, and they're the people that you should be, spending your time with, not those that are essentially taking away from it for a perceived benefit that you may or may not give. Yeah, that's so good. That's so juicy. I'm glad that you shared that, because that is a huge determining factor of why you may want to invest as well. And it can come down to, you've got this social, like you said, that with the social hierarchy, people using wealth to have themselves build themselves up on the social ladder so they don't get judged, or they don't feel judged because they have insecurities. And there's a big difference between somebody that's all right, they might not be a billionaire. The billionaire might have a lot of insecurities. Typically that is the case, and that's why they are billionaires, because they have to make $1 billion. Sometimes it's impact and philanthropy and all that sort of stuff, but other reasons why is social hierarchy, and they're insecure, so they want to just show the world that they're worth it, instead of proving to themselves. And then you've got people that will prove to themselves that they're valuable,
and they don't need $1 billion portfolio, or they don't need all these things. And you've got these different levels of people with different levels of confidence. And the confident person, I believe, is not somebody that will reach out for material things and wealth for social hierarchy and status. And if you are reaching for that, then maybe it's worth taking a step back and working on ourselves to become more of a confident person and understanding that you're a human being, you got flaws, and working on those and doing the work. I've got a really good image while I reach for my phone. Is this? I was going to send this to you during the week. I'll show you guys on YouTube. But you got an image of somebody that's an insecure person and then a confident person, and the insecure person is it's not going to work. There we go.
This is production 101 over here.
Insecure person is like, so you've got an unsecure person is somebody that will have I'll just depict the image. Think about a iceberg. An iceberg that has a quarter or 1/8 of its typically an iceberg won't work this way, but say a reverse iceberg where you've got 1/8 of the iceberg is in the water and the rest is above the water. That's not going to work because of physics, but just say, for example, you got that, and then you got that's an unsecure person, so they've got not much base
below the surface
and foundation, right? And that thing could just topple over with the breath of a snide remark from somebody that's judging you. You could collapse, right? And then you've got somebody that's a confident person, which is an actual iceberg that has 1/8 of it above the water and the rest is depth and just solid groundedness. And if you build your wealth based on being a secure person versus an insecure person, then you're going to you've already achieved the goal of wealth, right? I think wealth is like feeling confident and secure. But then when you have that monetary thing, you can use that as a tool and a resource to help other people be in a similar spot too. And I think that's a pretty cool why.
Here's a question. You've obviously helped a lot of people get out of their grind, the 9 to 5. What's sort of that level of connection that you have with those people?
What do you mean?
Like, what fulfillment do you get out of it? Like, how does it make you feel when people hit their goals?
At the start, it was way more intense, and I shouldn't say intense. It was really awesome. But now it's become a thing that's just normal for me. At the start, when somebody think about it this way. There's a guy who was from Melbourne. His name's Sam. And
hey Sam, how you doing, man?
Hopefully he's working. Hopefully he's listening to this. He went through our. This is like the early days of my business when it first started. I was only like reaching out and helping Aussies before we went international. And then he was a plumber. He was like the same version of me, and this was like so fulfilling for me. He was a plumber. Ended up getting a second job, like doing cashiers and stuff in the afternoon. He was working out the back of his car. He didn't have much money. He's like, I'm just scrapping together cash, and I want to buy a business. And then his goal was to move to the Gold Coast. He moved to the Gold Coast. I met him. He bought a business, moved to the Gold Coast. I met him, and his whole life changed dramatically because of the beliefs that he had and what he was working towards. Also, I got a message from a guy the other day. I'd worked with him. He bought a small business. It wasn't enough to replace his income yet, and he said, I've now. It was like 2 years later. He's like, yeah, now I don't need to work. I'm quitting my job, and like I'm just traveling around, and it's so. What people get to do with it's hugely fulfilling, right? Like, yeah, of course, like I make money through my business, which is awesome, right? And at the start, I started my business so I could continue to make money and help people at the same time. Now I'm in a position where like it would be hard for me to like stop the business because the money's an awesome thing from it, but it'd be really hard to stop it because what the vehicle that it is and the facilitation of change is huge. Like I get so much from my work. Like I could not work, but I choose to do 20 hours a week, and most of that is one-on-one coaching calls with people. I also stopped doing coaching calls. Like I got to a point where I had too many people, and I got really sick, and I was working too much, and I was doing only one-on-one coaching with a lot of people. And then I changed the system, and I went one to many, and I stopped coaching with people for like 2 years. And then I was like, kind of like, what's going on with me? Like, why am I not super excited about my work like anymore? And then my mentor at the time was like, why aren't you speaking to these people? Like, you should speak to them and help them like one-to-one. And so I opened up a small group of people that I wanted to help one-to-one, and then my business grew because I was happier. So
take note of that. It's like your happiness level it's like your compass.
Yes.
In life.
Yes.
So sort of bringing that back to the theme of the pod is, your why. Why are you doing these things? Whether it's business, property, work, anything in your life. Like, if you wake up and are excited to go and do something for that day, where it's pulling in income, you're on the right path. And then the next part is like, now you've got that, what are you actually doing with that income that you're making? Because it's like an insurance policy. Investing is somewhat of an insurance policy in that it provides you options in the future, and you've got an asset, especially in property. And why we're big proponents of property is that you can earn your income. You'll earn a greater income through business or through your everyday PAYG employment, but then you look at your hourly rate as well, because you buy a property, you sit there, you actually don't do much from maybe an hour a month just managing your managers, and that's growing in value for you. And then historically, the performance of property, it's a vehicle to financial freedom, and breaking that down is like, that's what we all want. And the reason why I love what I do for people is because if we can all do this, then we as a species are going to, the compounding effects of growth, with people actually just focusing on what they want to do every single day of their lives, we will achieve far greater things than people doing things that don't actually light them up, because they do a half-assed job. Trust me, I've been there. I've worked for one of the big four banks, and it's just a nightmare. Just going to work, it sucks your soul. You don't want to be there. You're looking at the clock, and that's not putting good like output into the world. And I feel like that we're sort of that's the downfall of the system that's been put upon us through the past, whether it's decades or centuries, by the higher powers. And unfortunately, that's just the way it is. People with a lot of money have a lot of control, and there's big family funds and a lot of wealth in the world. Doesn't mean that you can't get there yourself, but that's not the big goal. And as Jared talked about as well, don't aspire to be people who are multimillionaires, billionaires. Everyone has issues, whether it's their insecurities, massive ego, they've got poor relationships because they value a thing that was made up called money greater than a human connection. And it's like that vibrational being that you'll hear about here and there is so important.
Got a really good story to share about following somebody that you think is successful, because I have done it, and they were successful, and they were doing 8 figures a year in that business, in the coaching business. And I came back, and it was my cousin Geordie, one of his friends that he went to school with. He was he owned a large coaching business, and I was looking for a mentor at the time, and my cousin Geordie put me onto him, and I started working and going through his courses and trainings and programs, and I did really well, and sharing like a bunch of value, and they're like putting me on a pedestal because of how much like money I was making a month through doing this in the early stages of the business. And then I got a lot of fulfillment and significance because people were reaching out to me like wanting help from his group as well. And I built this business where I was doing so much coaching, one-to-one coaching like he was, and it was the worst thing for me, and it was the worst thing for my business, because I didn't think about like what I wanted to do and what would make me happy. Instead, I went the opposite way, as I just built myself into a gnarly job where I was making great money, but had a massive team of like salespeople and marketing and all this sort of stuff, and the business blew up in my face. And it's just like, And the same thing happened to him a couple of years later. Like he was doing some shady stuff that I didn't realize, but I followed the wrong person, and I built the business. And you can even do this in property investing as well. Like you can follow the wrong people or follow the wrong goals, and it can get you something that is more damaging to you than maybe just staying where you're at. So that's a big one to think about too.
Yeah, like an example on that with property is people that over leverage themselves, push them too hard. Mm-hmm. You know, they accumulate all this.
Or property development as well.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like you push it to a point where if it does shift and the macro environment changes, because property is such an expensive vehicle, you know, you can come undone. And by that is like if the market either pulls back or it gets to a stage where you have to sell assets, then it's an expensive transaction. And if you're on the wrong side of that growth curve, and you're not investing into the growth locations that the data points us all towards, and what we analyse every single day, it's not the easiest task, but it, you know, people can do it. You know, they're the ones that it can come crumbling down very quickly, and it's the classic quote. I'll Buffett, everyone bloody throws it out there, but you don't know who's swimming naked until the tide goes out. Mm-hmm. And the tide hasn't gone out for a few years, in especially the Australian property market and business market. We saw the GFC. I mean, this is obviously where I see the economic cycle, but that came through, hit America in 07, 08. We didn't really feel it here until end of 09, but then we saw that 4-year downturn until about 2013, and then since then it's been quite prosperous. And then even if you zoom out further, we actually haven't seen a recessionary period in Australia since the 70s, so we have never seen hard times. Historically, you look back at it and go, there's always hard times. I think we'll look back on the COVID lockdown periods as, you know, they were, you know, stressful, difficult times. But for us, it was good. I got to go surfing more.
we were very lucky living on the Gold Coast. It's a really good point on the hard times, and that's a really. It's the way I think about property investing is like you got. Like, depends on how big your goals are, right? Like, I got massive goals in property, but my goals are not the same as many people that want to build wealth really fast in property. I'm happy to just be patient with it. I think some people, think about it this way. Some people want to do it for social status, right? Some people want to buy, I want to buy 10 properties. I want to say that I can own 20 properties so I can tell people I can own 20 properties. Stuff that's stupid. Like, imagine owning 20 residential properties. That is just like a nightmare for you to run admin wise, but it's keeping your social status up. So it's keeping your social status up and it's killing you on the inside. Is that the right goal for you? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe you love owning 20 residential properties. And then you've also got another strategy of, all right, I want to buy 5 residentials, make a bit of money, get some cash together, and then I want to get some investors, I want to build this fund, and I want to start developing property. And the margins with developing property, like, you need to be really good with them. It's a lot more work than just buying and holding. Mm-hmm. You're putting your hours into it, versus you putting your money into an asset that's going to make you money. You're working to make yourself money as well, unless you hire the right people, and then your margins are even smaller. I don't know, from the outside looking in, I feel like some people might get into property development for the social status game as well, to tell people like, hey, I'm a property developer, or drive past this property like, oh, I built that. That's me, you know, like, how good's my ego now? And then maybe that's a social status game, and maybe they do win on 2 or 3 and do really well, and then there's one that just crashes them, and then they put themselves even back further than when they started. Who knows? I'm making this stuff up as like a hypothesis that could happen and why people might choose these different types of goals. But if you're coming back to what's the most valuable thing in your life, time with the people that you love, like, have that as the foundational goal over some of the other sort of goals that you may get from your external environment.
Yeah, and then work your way back to where you are today, and work towards getting there in the next 10, 20 years, however long that you need to get there, because, you know, life is short, but it's long at the same time. And I mean, if you're not investing, then you're going to be working for your money, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know, obviously we're big proponents of it, but do what makes you happy at the end of the day. You're not guaranteed tomorrow, but at the same time, if you're not letting your money work for you, then you're always going to be working for the money, and then 10 years comes around pretty quickly, and then especially when you get into your 50s, into your 60s, you should not be thinking about this, because the younger you are, the lower risk you have to take, because you can build wealth at a more sustainable rate, and you don't have to take those high risks of doing multiple purchases within a few years. It's definitely achievable, especially in your 50s, to get to that level of abundance that you want to get to. It's just that you've got to take a more aggressive approach, and the reason why I say this, because everybody that I talk to that are in that situation come back and they say, I wish I did this earlier. So why are you investing? Name the podcast. Have a good think about it. I mean, sit back. It's life is a beautiful journey. Where do you want to be? So ask yourself those questions, and if you're with a partner, sit down with them and just hypothesize where it's going to be, and then how are you going to get there? Well, obviously, if you enjoy the property vehicle space and you listen to this podcast, then reach out, have any questions, we're here to help as well.
Yeah, we are. That's what we're doing this for, is to share what we're thinking about, how we do things, mostly what Sam knows about property. But yeah, we're here to help. So yeah, thanks for listening. And thanks for wrapping it up, Sam. That was awesome.
Yeah. See you in the next one. Hope this was helpful. If it was and you enjoyed it, let us know, please, because it really helps, and we love this level of content as well.
And subscribe.
Yeah. Bye for now.
See ya.